Let's get it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the bullpen. In the bullpen today, we have two former police officers who are part of the panel discussion today. One officer has gone on record to suggest that the officer who killed Sonya Massey was justified. The other officer is on record saying he was not. In my opinion, obviously, it is well known. I believe this cop committed murder. Now, I'm going to remind you of the video and provide the context. We'll get into our discussion. Here it is.
The body camera video reveals the events leading up to the horrific scene.
What took you so long to answer the door?
Oh, I was trying to put on some clothes, sir. I'm sorry.
You doing all right mentally?
Yes.
Sure?
My medicine and stuff.
All right. Okay.
I love y'all. Thank y'all.
Inside the home, Sangamon County Sheriff's Deputy Sean Grayson can be heard asking Sonya Massey to check on the stove.
We don't need a fire while we're here.
Within seconds, things become tense.
Where you going?
Huh?
Where you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
Huh?
I rebuke you in the name of
God, I swear to God, I'll shoot your ear.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Massey starts to set down the pot and apologizes. Grayson fires 3 times, striking her in the face.
Headshot wounded female, 1078.
Prosecutors say Grayson's partner tried to give the 36-year-old first aid, even though Grayson discouraged him.
I'm gonna go get my kit. No, she's done. You can go get it, but that's a headshot.
Let's put up this screenshot for mass. Civil rights lawyer John H. Bryan gave a breakdown of the events of the shooting, referencing the body cam of both cops. At 1:20 and 44 seconds, switching to Deputy Grayson's body cam, we can see that at this time, the first time being told to drop the effing pot, Sonya raises her hands in the air and says, "I'm sorry." You can see that image there. We made a still for your review. Zooming in, we can see Sonya is not holding the pot that she's being ordered at gunpoint to drop. These are facts. The pot is on the stove, clearly seen. And Sonya has oven mitts in her hands, clearly seen. She also appears to be covering her ears and afraid, and Grayson shouts at her, "Drop the effing pot." The civil rights lawyer notes 1:20 and 45. Sonya ducks down. At this moment, you hear the other deputy draw his pistol. He also yells at Sonya, "Drop the pot." So now 2 cops are screaming at her to drop a pot she's not holding. Ladies and gentlemen, these are facts. 2 cops are screaming at her to drop a pot she is not holding. We have the evidence, okay? Go to the next one. At 1:20, 45 seconds. Switching back to Deputy Grayson's body cam at that exact second, you can clearly see conclusively that Sonya did not take the pot with her when she ducked down. It's still sitting on the counter. This is a zoomed in screenshot of that same still, showing the pot is not in Sonya's possession. As she is ducking down in fear and confusion, she was undergoing a mental health crisis, thinking a prowler was at the home. 1:20:46. Let's switch back to Grayson's body cam, which has a better view. When the other deputy joins Grayson in aiming their guns at Sonya and shouting at her, "Drop the pot that she's not holding." Once again, there's the pot is circled for you. Let's speed up 1 second. Now I'm at 1:20 and 47 seconds. Deputy Grayson then begins to advance forward towards Sonya Massey, who has not moved from her position. She is ducking down on her kitchen floor as if she's somehow the perpetrator. Grayson is the one who begins to move. Instead of away from a perceived threat, he moves towards Sonya. Okay? 120-47, switching back to Deputy Grayson's body cam. This is what he saw, which appears to be Sonya Massey going from being crouched with no pot to reaching up, grabbing the pot, mid-still on her hands, and then holding the pot over her head. Could it be that she grabbed the pot, held it over her head because they kept telling her to drop the pot, drop the pot, drop the pot that she did not have in her hands? 120-48, switching again to the other deputy's body cam now. After Grayson shoots Massey, who did not threaten to throw water on anyone, you see what appears to be steaming water hit the officer's chair at lower left of the kitchen floor. That's when you saw water. CBS News previously reported Grayson pleaded guilty twice to DUI prior to becoming a cop. He served at 6 different departments in 4 years, and that he was discharged from the U.S. Army in 2016 from the Fort Riley Army installation in Kansas for serious misconduct. They refused to name the exact nature of the misconduct, only called it serious. One of the incidents in which Grayson is accused of having trouble obeying orders happening during his 5th police job with the Logan County Sheriff's Office, where he worked from May 2022 to April 2023. Grayson refused an order by a superior to terminate a high-speed chase in the state, 121 over traffic infraction in which his speed at times reached 110 miles per hour. He's putting other people in danger. He refused a direct order. Grayson told his superiors he was about to terminate the pursuit, but he did not. Audio recordings obtained by CBS News also show superior officers were worried about Grayson's behavior, and a recording released by the Logan County Sheriff's Office, where Grayson worked from May 2022 to April 2023. A supervising officer is heard admonishing Grayson for what the senior officer said was his lack of integrity, for lying on his police reports, and for what he calls official misconduct. The sheriff and I will not tolerate lying or deception, he says in the recording. The officer tells him in the audio recording of a November 2022 meeting obtained by CBS News. At one point, the supervising officer warns Grayson that officers like you have been charged and they end up in jail, end quote. And that's exactly where his ass is at. Now, let's talk about it openly. On the panel, I have Leon Taylor, Master Sergeant, United States Air Force, retired with over 20 years of experience, also a retired Baltimore police officer. And we have Officer Brandon Tatum, a former member of SWAT, CEO of 3 companies, and he is known for his YouTube channel talking about police conduct. Gentlemen, thank you both for being on the program.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, here's what I want to do. Officer Tatum, you have taken the position that this police officer is justified. I would like you to explain your position, then I'm going to go to our other panelists for their opinion. What say you?
All right, so I want to make sure we're clear here. Justification is not, is he justified in the death of this young lady? Justification is the justified use of force. So I don't condone any of his actions before the shooting. I don't think that he's a great officer with great reputation, and I'm not supporting him whatsoever. I'm saying that the use of force when she lunged at the police officers with the pot, the use of deadly force was appropriate and justified in that particular instance.
What, say that again?
That when she lunged at the police officers with the pot of boiling water, that Grayson was justified in using deadly force against her.
Okay, so in your, I guess, estimation of what happened, she violently attacked the officer.
No, I didn't say she violently attacked the officer. She picked up the pot and she threw it in the direction of both officers, and out of fear of serious bodily injury, which is a part of the statute requirement, they can utilize deadly force to deter that threat. And that's what Grayson did in that instance, and that's why I believe it's justified.
You know, I could go back and forth with you. I'm going to allow the panelists to opine on this because I'm sure he has something to say. Officer, what say you?
Well, it's interesting. You know, you can't legislate morality, That's for certain. But I'm in all of this, I'm still trying to understand why they're inside the house. It makes no sense to me. If the original call was for a burglar or a suspected prowler, once they've ascertained that that's not the case, why do they need to go inside? They already know that she possibly has mental health issues. To my mind, to my way of thinking, once they established they've satisfied the requirements of the original call, you check on her, ask if she's all right. It's time to code the call to go back in service.
There's a dispute, obviously, of her malicious intent. I don't think there was any malicious intent whatsoever. I believe this woman was in fear of her life. I think she was being told very confusing things in a confused state. And she was then shot and killed. Officer Tatum, I want to go back to you and pose some questions that other cops have posed, similar to what you just heard. There's a white female cop who went on record pretty quickly in uniform and talked about how this officer in particular should have never been a cop, and then she gets into the conduct after this happened. Tatum, why did he lie to his colleagues?
You're talking about in the former incident?
Well, he's been lying. I'm not even talking about the other incidents where we know he lied on police reports, which is official misconduct, violation of oath of office, et cetera. I'm talking about this time. As soon as his colleagues arrived, he told a narrative of an aggressive, violent individual. As a matter of fact, he said she was a crazy B word. All right. That's unprofessional, naturally, but it goes to his state of mind, dear brother. In a court of law, that goes to state of mind. If you believe you're dealing with a crazy B word rather than a person experiencing either A, mental health crisis, or B, a possible victim of a potential crime, it goes to your state of mind.
Well, I don't think that's gonna end up being relevant in this case, but I do think it was reprehensible for someone to speak like that.
Why don't you think it's relevant in this case when it's already been deemed relevant? That's why
it's not going to be relevant. They indicted him, in my opinion, because they wanted to stop the riots from happening. They didn't want people to lose their mind over this shooting that was very emotional. In the court of law, this is going to be a self-defense argument. So Grayson is going to argue that he acted in self-defense, and that's the only thing that's going to be on the table. His previous behavior. Why didn't his partner
respond the same way then?
Well, I think well, first of all, their tactics were terrible. His partner was in a very difficult position to do anything. He almost shot Grayson in the back. So these cops had a lot of things that they did incorrectly, and their tactics were horrible. And I think that's why both of them didn't respond in the same manner. But I think this is going to be a self-defense argument. That's what I'm saying in the court. Not what I feel, not what anybody else thinks, not how horrible this was. It was sad to see the woman lose her life like that.
Of course, he's going to make a self-defense argument if he's pleading not guilty.
No, but that's going to be the argument. Is he's going to argue self-defense, and the prosecution is going to have to prove that he wasn't acting in self-defense beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah, we know that.
The burden of proof is not going to be. They're not going to be sufficient in this, given the fact that she threw the ball in water.
Called jury members. But let me get this correct. Tatum, you're saying that these cops did everything wrong. They broke protocol. They are bad cops. You don't agree with their actions, but the only thing they got right was killing that woman.
No, that's not what I'm saying whatsoever.
That's basically what you're saying.
I don't think that both cops did everything wrong. I think that Grayson did a lot of things wrong. I would have liked to have seen him de-escalate in that situation. I would have liked to have seen, him do a lot of things differently. Even after he shot her, I would like to see them at least give an attempt to render aid, even though they wasn't going to be able to properly render aid. But I think that being a bad cop doesn't mean that you're not justified in defending yourself against a person hurling boiling water. I think that's what it's going to end up coming down to.
Yeah, I didn't see a hurling of boiling water.
He did. I sent your staff the video that I did. I think we're sending over now. It's a video that I did where I put it in slow motion and I show the trajectory of the pod and the way the water went out and it hit a table. It hit like a chair and the floor. And so you can see that the water was hurled and propelled in their direction. And that's when he pulled the trigger and shot her. Listen, if she hadn't thrown that water, I think that these cops would, at least Grayson would have not have been justified and he would have gotten charged correctly. But I think when she threw that water, he's going to have a justification in the necessity to use deadly force in his self-defense, the defense of himself and his partner.
Taylor Officer Taylor, what say you to that?
Well, I understand the law and I understand self-defense. And, every day in this country, officers respond to these sort of calls. And I've never heard of hot water being used as a weapon that justifies the use of deadly force. To my way of thinking, they could have mitigated the whole thing. Number one, they didn't have to be inside the residence with her. That's number one. Number two, if they were going to be in the residence, you've got an officer primary and you got a backup officer. If you're so concerned about the possibility of a fire breaking out, and you have this woman who you've already established has mental issues, she's seated. Why not have your partner go and turn the pot off? If it's that big of a deal. Again, I still don't understand why they were both inside the residence asking for her ID.
I can explain.
They're trying to run her for warrants or whatever.
I can explain that. I can explain that. I agree with you that when you look at it after the fact, there's some things that I wish that they would have done differently. But it wasn't unlawful to be in her house at the time of this incident. It seems that when they first engaged with her, it was a call the night before of her struggling with mental illness. That's why Officer Grayson, a Deputy Grayson asked her, was she still struggling with mental illness, because she was kind of being erratic. So on a call that's a prowler call, you have the right to investigate the call and get information from the person who's calling so that you can rectify it, because she did seem like she was struggling from a mental illness encounter. She was also on the phone with another deputy. It seemed like they were trying to get her mental illness situation, I guess put into check, which everything was going fine. They were having a reasonable conversation. They were laughing and joking. Even when she went to the stove, they kind of were joking before she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." And so I think that that's where the storyline is going to go in the court of law. They're going to say that everything was fine. Nobody was being intense. Nobody was violating laws. They were acting within the color of their authority. She didn't ask them to leave the house. She didn't say that she felt threatened by them at any point. And everything was fine until she got to the stove. And I'll just give an example of the stove situation. Looking back on it, I think they should have probably asked her. This is what I would have done if I was in a situation, because I don't want her to think I'm overstepping her bounds, and I do want to be cautious to her own living space. So I would have asked her, "Ma'am, would you mind if I turn your stove off, because it seems like it's going to catch on fire if we don't do something about it?" I do understand how an officer wouldn't want to overstep their bounds and try to start turning stuff off in her house and messing with her appliances. In a reasonable situation, if she'd have went over there and turned the fire off and went back to sit down, that's what everybody would have liked to have seen happen. But it didn't end up that way.
Officer Tatum, I'm going to respond to that, then go to our co-panelist. So the argument is interesting, the contrast between both of you, because Tatum, you're basically arguing that this is within the statutory framework of law. Now, the reason why
the shooting, only
right,
the shooting.
You're saying that's your argument. The argument that you're making is that this happened within the statutory framework of what is legally allowable, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, here's the problem with that. If you believe that laws equate to morality, dear brother, that means you would have to believe that when it was law that Black people could not sit where they wanted to sit on the bus, that law equated to morality. When Black people could not frequent establishments, could not have the freedom to assemble or the right and access to vote, that was law. That equated to morality. My point to you is, you do not judge, or at least for men like myself, I do not judge a statute or the framework of a judicial ruling in order to determine my morality and ethics as it comes when it comes to people. In addition to that, you're making an argument for the worst among us in policing, and you admit you did not like anything they did. You didn't like none of it. But brother, I hate to bring this home, man. Your mama living, Officer Tatum?
Huh?
Is your mama living?
Yeah, my mama alive.
My mother is not. If somebody did your mother that way in uniform, would you come on my show and defend them?
I'm not defending.
Yes,
I
y'all
think
do,
people
brother. Come
conflating
on, man.
as
You
if
are defending
listen. People saying like I'm defending it. Like
Would
I'm
you
defending
say
this
what
officer.
you're saying
I'm
if
saying
this was your mother?
I would say the
who was
same
handled
thing.
this way.
I would
Just-
say the same thing because I'm going off of what the law says. I
You
don't.
would say
I
that
don't
if they
like
killed your mama,
if this officer shot my mother after she threw a pot of boiling water at
going
him,
through a mental health episode, they did not follow protocol. They did not de-escalate. You would still come on television in order to debate that they or that cop was still legally in the right.
I'm only debating the law. I don't care for this cop, and I don't think that he did everything right. I think that he would have been probably worse off if he would have shot her the way they've been perpetuating it out in the news. That if she was just standing by the stove, she put her hands up and homeboy shot her because he thought she would throw a pot of boiling water. I mean, he would go to prison for the rest of his life. What I'm saying is that things begin to change when a person throws a pot of boiling water at him. I would have liked to see him do things differently. I would be very upset if that was my mom. I would have been very upset. I wouldn't like. I'm upset that this woman lost her life. I don't think that this should have resulted in that. But the law will dictate certain things when it comes to self-defense. And boiling water is a deadly weapon because a person can get seriously injured, dismembered. I mean, not dismembered, but get seriously injured and disfigured for life.
Sir. It's not considered a deadly weapon. It
is a deadly weapon. According to Illinois law, a boiling pot of water is a deadly weapon.
No, it's not considered. It's considered. No, sir. Look at the ruling, sir. It's not considered.
I know the ruling says, Dr. Ritchie, the ruling says that the water was the deadly weapon and deadly force was justified in that scenario. However, they are arguing that he put himself in a situation that should not necessitate a deadly force. Let me just give you an example.
Brother, let me do this.
Let me just give this quick example real quick.
Tatum, I'm going to let you give me the example, dear brother. But I want you to understand the difference between a deadly weapon, which is categorized by instrumentation, and the use of deadly force. The court made the distinction. You see, the device or the pot itself is not a deadly weapon. They talked about what the officer subjectively believed was the deadly weapon. That was the contextualization of the court, not the category of the pot or of the boiling water. To Officer Taylor, I want you to respond to Tatum, and then we'll go back for Tatum's example. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, the law does provide for self-defense. For instance, in the case of an officer chasing an armed person, if that person is going to get to a position of cover and be able to return fire, and the officer is in the open, that officer is justified in shooting this person, okay? Because it's accepted that the officer, through no fault of their own, right, in the performance of their duty, is inadvertently placed in a position of severe disadvantage, right? Which could result in severe injury or loss of life. That is mutually understood, it's universally understood. But also, saying that, it's also well known and universally accepted that if an officer is engaged in a gunfight with a person who places themselves in front of a group of citizens, to the extent that there's a possibility that if the officer returns fire, one of those citizens might be injured, then those are just rounds the officer has to eat. And this is basic. This is right out of the academy in Baltimore City, one of the most violent cities in the United States. It's known that if the person has a backdrop that's not safe, where the officer would take the risk of hitting someone, that officer's got to seek cover as best he can until the situation changes. This entire situation was manufactured. He manufactured these exigent circumstances, literally told the woman what he was going to do to her, and then did it. I don't understand any of it. I don't understand what argument he has. I don't understand it at all. I would not want to go to court with this argument. There's no way in the world I would want to do it. I think his partner was very uncomfortable. I think his partner was equally as confused. I mean, this is Derek Chauvin to the nth degree. This is crazy. This is madness.
Tatum?
So yeah, I just want to give the example. In the example that they're giving with this particular officer, they charge him with first-degree murder, which is intentional murder, and it's not going to hold up in court whatsoever. And I wish they would have charged him something a little more appropriate. The example that I was going to give was that.
Give me a more appropriate charge.
Well, I think he's going to be found innocent or not guilty because of the self-defense argument.
But you said they would have charged him with something more appropriate.
Well, I'm saying at least be reasonable, right?
But brother, what appropriate charge are you referring to in your mind?
Okay, so there's two arguments here. I think he's going to be justified, but that doesn't mean he can't be charged because people do have concerns about his behavior. I think that something more of, they could have gotten it for manslaughter, maybe second-degree murder, if they want to push it that far, would have been more reasonable. To charge him with first-degree murder is a burden that they're not going to have any chance at proving.
They still have an opportunity to add lesser. Yeah, they have to try to prove offenses.
They have to try to prove premeditation, which is never going to happen in this case because everything was fine before she said, "I rebuke in the name of Jesus," while holding that pot of boiling water, which was the initial aggressive threat. Well, and so he used the threat of deadly force against her.
Let me correct something that you said.
Okay.
The murder statute he's charged under, well, number one, lesser offenses can be added. I actually believe they will be. But the murder charge does not require premeditation in the sense that he went to the home in order to kill. It requires mens rea. And mens rea means that you knew or should have known that killing a woman who is ducking down on the floor in her home was a crime. You develop mens rea at that point, and that is the formation of charge. All right, go ahead, bro.
Well, that he would be guilty if that's what happened. We're all on the same page. If she crouched down and he just shot her because she had a pot next to her, he thought she was going to throw the pot, he would have had no chance in this case. But I think that when she picked the pot up for whatever reason, I still don't know why she would throw the pot at the guy.
Well,
but she picked the pot up and threw it, and then when he shot her and used deadly force against her,
you do know that his knowledge of the mental health crisis is going to be front and center in the prosecution.
That doesn't preclude him from defending himself.
Just give me a moment. What it does is it sets a parameter of protocols that must be followed in order to protect life. And
but it also justifies.
If you decide to not follow those protocols, you have willfully engaged.
No, but it also
in the violation of those protocols.
It also lends to the fact of her being very unstable and making that furtive action without any kind of signs or anything before that. So
that's not true.
That is because she
had a mental health crisis the day before.
No. When he said she was crazy, that sound bad for him to say it, but it was true because she may have been going through a psychotic episode, and
but see,
I don't
brother,
know what
that's the point.
They're going to make that point in the court of law.
That's crazy. Brother, that's not crazy, brother.
For somebody to be talking normal and you engaging in a normal conversation.
You don't talk normal. The hell you talking about? Tatum, you're crazy, Tatum. She was sick. She was going through a mental health crisis. She needed a doctor, brother.
Which is
you
fine.
are crazy. You sound crazy. You always do.
No,
all right, brother.
Fine.
Let me go. I said I wasn't going to do this.
Let's have a real conversation. Let's have a real conversation.
Negro, you said that you would defend the cop killing your mama. I should have kicked y'all.
I didn't say nothing about defending a cop killing my mama. I said it's a self-defense argument that he has a self-defense argument in the court of law. That's not defending somebody who can. You're getting emotional and taking it personal.
Damn right,
I don't know either one of these people. I'm just telling you what the law says.
No, you're wrong
we'll
about
see when it goes to trial.
You're wrong about premeditation. You're wrong about the law. All right, so, brother, if you would, what's your response, Tatum? I'm running out of time.
I'm over here dying, literally. I mean, I know what the law says. I know about self-defense, okay? I've been in bad situations myself, but I also understand that you can't ask the question, are you okay? Are you having an episode? Okay, and then place the woman. Literally, he placed the weapon in the woman's hand, if it was a weapon. He placed the weapon in the woman's hand.
You just said it right there.
Did. Is it a weapon or is it not a weapon? I am not sure who had the mental break because she comes off very reasonable compared to whatever episode he was going through in his head. I've never heard of anybody tell someone what they're going to do to them. Okay, take the uniform off of it. Take the uniform off because he shouldn't have had it on in the first damn place.
We can argue that.
If somebody says to you, Tatum, don't throw this at me, I'm going to shoot you in your effing face. Okay? I mean, hey, that's going to put you in a state of fear.
No, well, kind of, sort of, right? I mean, if I got a pot and I'm going to throw it on you and you pull a gun on me and say, I'm going to shoot you in the face, and I let the pot go because I realize this guy's going to shoot me if I throw this pot at him, and she put her hands up.
No, let me put it like this, okay? No.
She put her hands up.
No.
It was over.
I am not shooting the woman.
Why did she throw the pot? No, I wouldn't either.
Because I don't want to get scolded. Okay.
But
that's crazy.
If she throws the pot of boiling water on you, you could potentially die from 3rd-degree burns. You will be seriously dismembered or disfigured.
I'm not getting that close.
Permanently, you could be permanently blind.
I'm not getting that close.
It's not about
Martians could come down and take me to the moon or whatever.
We could say whatever we want to say and what we shoulda, woulda, coulda did. I agree with you. There's things that I believe I would have done differently. But when he points the gun at her, she puts her hands up. She goes down to the ground. She is no longer a threat initially she's no longer a threat to them with the pot, so they move in to see what she's doing. Maybe she's giving up.
But they're still telling her,
but they're
she doesn't have a pot.
Because they're warning her because she did exactly what they were afraid of that she was going to do. They're saying, put the pot down. Don't touch the pot. They get closer to her. She gave up.
I got you. I'm getting the rap. I'm getting the rap.
They're going to prove that she intended to throw the pot the whole time.
Well, Tatum, like you said, you're getting emotional, brother.
I'm not getting emotional. I'm just telling you the truth.
I want to make sure we say this for the record. Mental health crisis, people experiencing them. It is a very delicate situation. And once that officer, and I, brother, I believe you, Taylor, that part is going to be important because he said it and it's on camera. He said it. He knew, he had knowledge. This is probably a mental health crisis.
It's a matter of record.
That's right. It's a matter of record now. And I think that knowledge going into that situation, and him still deciding to kill her rather than value her life and say what needed to be done was a mental health response.
The man decided that her life was not worth him getting scalded for.
This is what they were doing.
Or just walking away, just going outside.
This is what they were doing before the pot situation. They were on the phone with her. They were trying to get her the resources she needs before the pot. This is why in court is going to be a very different argument.
Well, we shall see, dear brother. You've been wrong. You've been wrong a whole lot.
I ain't never been wrong. What situation I've been wrong about?
Tatum.
But you're wrong today.
You say I'm wrong today. We will see. This is
all right. I gotta go.
Definitely wrong today.
I gotta go. Thank you both for being on the show. Tatum, it is what it is, brother. Officer, I appreciate you, Officer Taylor, for all you do and for your advocacy and your contextualization, your proper contextualization. Thank you both.